The Toronto Raptors are making more moves on the night of the trade deadline. Of course, they were a part of a ton of transactions today, and this one they made tonight was fairly surprising to a lot of Raptors fans, so we'll break down that, including new quotes coming out from Masai, Ujiri, Bobby Webster about all of the transactions that went down over the course of today, because frankly, the Toronto Raptors really changed the course of their franchise with a lot of the moves that went down over the past 24 hours. So it's interesting to hear what Masai Ujiri, Bobby Webster's perspective is on this entire thing, including, the rebuild, including capturing the flag, how they're feeling about the fit for Brandon Ingram, and a ton of different stuff. And we didn't even get his presser, because I was waiting for about an hour and a half in the stream for this presser that was leaked, that was put out there on YouTube to drop. It did not drop. It should be happening 11:30 tomorrow, so we will be going live for that. Make sure you guys subscribe and so you don't miss us going live out there for all of the latest kind of news and updates that's happening with this Raptors team. But let's dive into the madness, because we had a late night drop report come out. Essentially, the Raptors have announced they have waived James Wiseman. Wiseman had a team option for next season, and he's currently out for the year with his torn Achilles. The Raptors now have 2 open roster spots, and this came as a pretty big surprise to a lot of Toronto Raptors fans, because I kind of like the idea of rehabbing James Wiseman with our training staff and then having a team option for him next year at about $2 million. Just kind of made a bunch of sense for the Raptors to have his control. It didn't seem like a big risk. Of course, he is eating up a roster spot, so that is one thing to take into account, to play as a factor. But nope. Toronto Raptors made this trade with the Indiana Pacers for basically no reason. They made it, I guess, to acquire some cold hard money, but I mean, that ended up the team ended up having to buy him out. So I think what Masai Ujiri did there is give the Indiana Pacers a little bit of rub. Hey, we'll take on one of your guys, get off some of the salary, pay, you just pay us cash. And Masai Ujiri's doing something with goodwill, because of course they were in negotiations a ton last season for Pascal Siakam. So I find that interesting now at this point. So that final trade that Masai Ujiri pulled off, right? You can see at the time, it's 4:30 my time. That was the trade deadline, and that tweet was taken at 4:31. So basically, that last second pull of the trigger by Masai Ujiri, it was basically for nothing, for a bit of cash out there to put in the piggy banks of Rogers Communications. So that's one interesting move the Raptors made, but this does have implications in terms of the roster spots, as we saw. Orlando Robinson's second 10-day contract is about to expire, and the Raptors are in need of a big, with Olynyk traded and Poeltl hurt. So would expect him to get one of those open roster spots. Would think they ultimately use the other to convert Battle. So Orlando Robinson, Jamison Battle are 2 guys that are expected to fill those final 2 roster spots. Now, as we saw last season, Masai Ujiri is not afraid to come out and kind of make some moves, make some 10-day acquisitions in order to see what's out there on the open market. So don't be surprised if this deal doesn't happen kind of imminently. Jamison Battle, Orlando Robinson signings, and those 2 roster spots getting filled up. But that's kind of the long-term expectation, especially how good both of those guys have been in their limited minutes for this Raptors group. So very, very interesting kind of move there by Masai Ujiri. But we also had Masai Ujiri, Bobby Webster, the whole team out there at that point. But we also had some updates regarding Brandon Ingram. Of course, the big acquisition ahead of this year, or coming into this year's trade deadline. So basically, and Brandon Ingram is now extension eligible, so the Raptors can start talking a contract with him, and Webster says they're looking forward to having those conversations. We hope to lock him up so he has a long stay in Toronto. So that just makes sense in terms of what the Raptors are doing. Of course, Brandon Ingram's a beast. He's going to be a guy that the Raptors want to have on here long term. 22 points per game, 5.6 rebounds, 5.2 assists. He's only 27 years old, so he fits the timeline of this Toronto Raptors group, and is just a wing player, like an all-star level talent that the Raptors got for cheap. So it makes a ton of sense for them to give him the contract that he's looking for, give him the contract that he wants. We gave up some future draft assets. He's injured here right now. This is still a throwaway of a season, and basically, Bobby Webster said as much in a recent kind of mentioning. So, essentially, what came out for those worried about Ingram, how he might impact the Raptors' immediate plans, Bobby Webster confirms that their goals for this season remain the same. The priority is to play and develop the young guys. I think it's still a rebuild. He calls Ingram trade more of a long-term play. So, with the contract extension impending, that language being used, Brandon Ingram long-term play, I think we can expect the Toronto Raptors to have a very good gauge in terms of what Brandon Ingram is looking for out there in his next contract, and essentially that he'll be around for a very, very long time. So everyone that's worried that he's going to leave or he's unrestricted free agent, so he's going to go to another squad, I think we can put those comments and those discussions to rest. I'd imagine the Raptors have made this deal with an understanding that he would be on the team long term. So, interesting updates there. Masai Ujiri also spoke out on the Brandon Ingram discussion, saying that we see Brandon as an integral part of this team's future. He's an elite scorer and he has a really diverse offensive skill set, and adding him to our young core is huge as we continue our quest to win in Toronto. And I've seen a lot of people criticize this move. A lot of people kind of bring up different discussions on, hey, the Toronto Raptors are messing up the rebuild. What's going on? What's really happening here now at this point? And I see the overhanging logic in terms of why some people might be critical of this move, especially where the Raptors have been struggling. You know, they have been bad. They've been trying to capture that flag over the course of the season. So it's no mistake that, you know, people are coming out and maybe being critical of getting a win now move. But Brandon Ingram is currently, you know, dealing with an injury, so he's not going to be in the lineup a ton for the next stretch of games. In terms of updates on the injury situations, the Raptors haven't had full details, full discussions out there on that. I didn't grab the quote from Josh Lundberg, but essentially the team is going to have Brandon Ingram come in out there on their road trip and be able to evaluate his current ankle injury and then see what to do from there. So basically, Brandon Ingram, the expectation from the top down is still to be in a rebuild. We just traded away two guys that have really turned around the fortunes of the Toronto Raptors season over the course of this year. But I think the big plan is to maximize lottery odds, maximize the development of the young guys. And Jakob Poeltl and Brandon Ingram also have the same number. So there's going to be interesting things to see if Jakob Poeltl defers to Brandon Ingram and number 14 ends up going to the guy that's been in an all-star game. But we'll see how those things end up shaking out. But, you know, right now, Brandon Ingram, he's expected to be on this team long term. The team is very excited to have him into this roster, into this group, and it's not changing the immediate plan. So this team is still projected to come out there. I don't want to say tank, but I'm kind of saying tank, you know, the rest of the season, get some stuff out there, rocket, and then essentially go all out for next season, which is exactly the kind of direction, exactly the kind of route I wanted this Raptors team to take. So I'm still very, very high on this Brandon Ingram trade. Lots of exciting stuff coming out regarding this whole situation. Excited to see him play. Excited to see him like suit up out there in a Toronto Raptors uniform. Just overall a new level of excitement for this Raptors team. So let me know what you guys think about this move, this trade. We had no updates yet out there on PJ Tucker. So we'll keep you posted if he gets bought out or something happens there along those lines. But let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comment section down below. You guys best make it as far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. My background disappeared, so it's telling me to go to bed. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.